the EUROPARC Conference 2025. Now in Spanish. Called for a reason because 1/3 of Lithuania's land is covered by forests, not to mention all other landscapes. But of course, this conference is not only about forests and landscapes, it is also about people, how we live with nature, how communities thrive alongside protected areas, and how we all share our responsibility for restoring ecosystems for the future generations. The Lithuanian geographer, Professor Česlovas Kudaba, once said, "The culture level of the country and its people is demonstrated by the attitude towards surrounding nature, the beautiful, unpolluted and rich nature we have inherited. Thus, the law of nature conservation has long lived in the consciousness of the people of the country." And the theme, Nature for People, People for Nature, highlights exactly that, our deep mutual connection with the natural world. Over the next days, we will explore how nature restoration.
These landscapes, they depend on. Because in the end, restoration is not only about ecosystems. It's about reconnecting people with a living world and ensuring the nature and society thrive together. So on behalf of the President of the Republic of Lithuania, I want to thank you for your dedication, your energy, and your vision. Together, let us make this conference a milestone on Europe's journey of restoration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dilba, for your welcoming speech. And now please welcome the Vice Minister of Environment of Lithuania, Ms. Aira Paliukėnaitė.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone, dear colleagues, friends. It is my great pleasure to be here today with you and welcome you to this year's EUROPARC conference, Nature for People and People for Nature. I think when we think about when we look from the policy perspective and when we speak about bringing nature to a higher political agenda, whether it's policy discussions or public debates or any kind of usual formats, indeed we have and we tend to take a lot of energy to find these kind of arguments and compelling narratives or kind of hooks to prove our interlocutors that talking about nature, it is very important, and we have to even convince starting this conversation, because only when we argue and when we kind of prove why nature is important, then we can follow with a further action and the following steps. So whether it's from the economic perspective, the competitiveness, national security, resilience, or health of our peace. But I think this conference, it's quite an exception, because here in this room, in this conference, so many like-minded people actually gathered here, and we don't need to prove each other why nature is important. We can actually save a lot of time and energy and speak and discuss how can we make it happen and how can we protect our nature, how can we restore it. And this main topic or theme of this conference, Nature for People and People for Nature, also reflects this kind of partnership and relationship that we have with nature, and it's a two-way street. So it's not only that nature cares for us, but also we have to care for nature and take this responsibility. And I think this conference, it's a really great opportunity to to be here, to discuss, to exchange and share different insights and experiences, because it is very important to gather here and find these ways of expressing and sharing how can we make this happen, how can we make this and the agreements and aspirations that we have for nature protection, how can we ensure that this comes to practice. And therefore, I really invite you today and the following days to get inspired by stories and experiences and insights from the colleagues who are going to share their thoughts and, yes, to leave this conference being inspired and actually take more action at the end of this conference. And thank you very much, and enjoy your time.
Thank you. Vice Minister of Environment of Lithuania. And now let us hear some thoughts from the Director of the State Service for Protected Areas under the Ministry of Environment, Agnė Jasinavičiūtė Trakimienė. She's in a traditional suit. Traditional dress, I should say, yeah.
I thought what to say. Wow, it's really great, finally. Dear guests, dear colleagues, and dear friends, welcome to Lithuania, to Birštonas, to Nemuno Kilpos River Loops Regional Park. And this day is truly special for us, because for many years our team has a dream that one day EUROPARC conference will be in Lithuania. And after all conferences we used to say, what if next year we will organize a conference? And this lasts like for many, many years. And yeah, we are here finally. So it's really great honor to have you here. And I would like to start with a small experiment. So I will invite you to a short interaction. Please look at the person sitting next to you or in front of you. Say your name and say from which country you are here. Of course, you're seeing it with the neighbors, but so see how it's easy to get a connection only just in a few minutes. And now let's take a look on the screen behind me. We will have a map. Yes, we have a map. And actually the geography of conference is really wide. First of all, I thought that, yes, there will be some guests from European countries, but also we have even guests from Chile, from Venezuela, from United States of America. So really welcome here in Lithuania that you took so many kilometers to travel here and gather together with all the friends. So this year we have 360 participants from 37 countries, an impressive landscape of people and ideas. This year's theme, Nature for People, People for Nature, reminds us that humans and nature are not separate worlds. We are part of the same system, and protected areas plays a crucial role in maintaining it. Nature provides clean air, water, food, and climate sustainability, benefits we preserve through careful management of our protected areas. Our work in protected areas is not only about preserving beauty and biodiversity, but also about ensuring that nature continues to sustain people and communities everywhere. Yet, this theme is not as romantic as it sounds. According to the Worldwide Fund for Nature Living Planet report, in the last 50 years, wildlife population across the globe have declined by nearly 70%. And that is a staggering and painful numbers. It shows the magnitude of the challenges we face right here and right now. And this conference takes place at a pivotal moment. The European Union Nature Restoration Law has just entered into force, one of the most ambitious legal frameworks ever designated to restore ecosystems. This will be a tremendous challenge, and we will discuss through all the week about this topic for every country, for every protected area, and every community. We will need not only to protect, but also to actively restore. From social perspective, we need to engage people. From economic perspective, we show that restoration is an investment, not a cost. And from a practical perspective, to act at the landscape scales everywhere. Alongside environmental challenges, we must not forget the war in Ukraine, and we stand with Ukraine. This conflict leaves deep scars on people, communities, and nature, from bombings to fires and polluted rivers. Its impact will last for years. So this conference is also a space of solidarity. At the same time, today we want to speak about the hope. And here we are, 360 people, even more, from 37 countries united by a shared idea. Together we can achieve much more than alone. Probably many of you seen the Latvian animated movie, The Flow, which won Oscar. So, yeah, really great colleagues from Latvia. Yeah, and this story tells about a cat which is unlikely companions navigating a flooded world, realizing that survival is only possible through cooperation. As the film reminds us, when the water rises, the only way forward is together. So every project, every idea, every small act of restoration is a tile in the mosaic we call nature of the future. And before we start, let us to remind that our planning is losing extraordinary people who dedicated their lives to nature. Among them, Jane Goodall, whose work with chimpanzees and lifelong commitment to conservation continues to inspire us all. So may her passion guide us in our efforts today and all week. So I wish that during these conference days, you are not only listen and share, but also find inspiration. That you return home with new ideas, new partnerships, and the conviction that nature restoration is possible. And that we do not only for nature, but for people, for our future generations. So may this conference be a time inspiration, unity, and shared responsibility. Have a great week here.
Thank you, Agne, for your leadership and dedication of safeguarding Lithuania's national heritage. And I personally thank you for the icebreaker game. It was absolutely amazing. And finally, to share his words of welcome on behalf of the EUROPARC Federation, please welcome Mr. Michael Hosek, President of EUROPARC.
Good afternoon. I don't have anything like an icebreaker or something like that, and a lot was said already. So let me thank the Chief Advisor to the President, Vice Minister, and also you, Agne, for organization of this very nice conference, because after 2 years, it's very nice to see 360 people together in one place. And this is something like a thank you on behalf of the EUROPARC Federation, but also thank you to the EUROPARC Directorate team to be a part of this organization. And I think you set the scene for this conference very well, because this is about the restoration. And I cannot say more than what you said already, but let me just expand one idea that we have, that we are going from protection to conservation and then to restoration. And I think this is not just a change of our, let's say, conservation measures. This is a change of the whole paradigm of the nature conservation itself, not only in Europe. And we need to be ready for that. I'm not sure that we are there. And I think here, this conference would be a space for a week to share our experience, because this is not just about us and our field experience. This is also how we communicate and how we feel what we do. Because when we talk about the theme of this conference about nature for people, people for nature. This is just not to show the people why nature is important, but also why nature conservation is important. And we were not successful fully with somehow showing the society why nature really is so valuable and we are so dependent on it. So we need to also do something more in this aspect. And then let's talk about why nature conservation itself is really important for the society, because this is something like the social demand, or should be. So this is just a thought that I would like to share with you. And now let me share with you something more personal, or let's say supportive, because I'm also from Soviet Union bloc countries. And now we are in a region in which the geopolitical situation is not so easy in the long term. And I would say that the whole conference, as we are here together, is something like proof that there is a unity, there is a responsibility, there is a sharing values, because this all, the democracy itself, is nothing that we can take it as for granted. So please, this is something like a thank to our hosts that we can be here, because I'm really happy that we can be here in this corner of Europe now, in this very difficult times, to support you. And now, finally, I have the honor to announce a new beginning also, because we have a new director. After 16 years, we have a new director of the EUROPARC Federation, which is Alberto Ario Schnell. He is not a newcomer to the nature conservation, not at all. I think a lot of you know him already. So this is also an advantage for the EUROPARC Federation, that we are now with a leader, with a manager who will help us to understand also the world inside of the silo, but also outside, because he was active, he has been active a long time at the policy level as well as at the field level. And let me share this welcoming word on behalf of the EUROPARC Federation with him. So I would like to welcome here Alberto Ario Schnell. And I would like to give him a floor for a short welcome of you.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, everybody, for being here. It's difficult to say something after so many inspiring speeches. So the only thing I would like to say is, first of all, I need to insist in the thank you to the Lithuanian host, because here we have an incredible reception, and even our host is dressed up as traditional, so that's impressive. Thank you very much. But also, if you are here, you are a friend of protected areas, and you're also a friend of EUROPARC. So we are here also to discuss about the next steps, about the future. So I hope that you will find the time to discuss, to share, to disagree, maybe also politely, of course, but we are here to also start to build the future. So thank you very much for coming. Network a lot, enjoy. That's also one of the important points of the, as you know, EUROPARC conference. And thank you very much for coming again. Thank you.
Thank you once again for your inspiring speeches, and warm welcome to Lithuania. And we would like also to take this opportunity to invite you to discover more about our beautiful country, its rich nature, unique culture, and the warmth of its people. So please take a look at some of the best moments in a short video.
Get closer to nature. Head out and explore by foot, by bike, by road, off the map. Traverse it. Run towards it. Take it in. Slowly. No need for a plan. Just be and let the beauty happen. In Lithuania, co-create experiences.
I am sure you will experience everything we have here in Lithuania, but for now, it's time to move into the most inspiring part of this event of today, inspirational talks. And our first speaker is Margot Periel, who was supposed to be here with us today, but sadly she has fallen ill, but she prepared us a video message. I will introduce her. Margot explores the concept of shifting baseline syndrome and its impacts on nature conservation and prevention. She grew up in the beautiful oak forests in France, surrounded by nature and wildlife from early age. And she's now a conservation ranger in Ireland and one of the winners of the Alfred Toffler Natural Heritage Scholarship. Margot has dedicated her career to understanding how people's perception to nature changes over time, a phenomenon known as the shifting baseline syndrome. So please have a look at the screen.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Margot Periel. I work as a conservation ranger with the National Parks and Wildlife Service. I was born in 1990 in Tour-de-Troncet, the most beautiful oak wood of Europe. Back then, the forest was inhabited by large herds of red deer. There were otters swimming in the rivers and raptors soaring in the skies. The summer nights were filled by the sounds of hundreds of insects, frogs, owls and nightingales, and were lit by glowworms and stars. Nowadays, when I visit the forest, I can still see its beauty, but I am conscious of its change. I miss the joy of finding the ground alive with dung beetles after a little rain, or catching a glimpse of the white doe in the clearing surrounded by century-old trees. I crave this time where the car windshield would get covered in insect nets. Newer generations, born in 2025, won't get to experience the calming snow on the dormant oak trees or the streams filled with crayfish. What I truly miss, in fact, is a time where nature was normal, healthy, balanced. But was that really the case in the 90s? Of course not. But without experiencing these earlier times, and without the knowledge of its previous state, this is what each new generation is led to think. This, right now, is normal. Shifting baseline syndrome, or SBS, is a psychological and sociological phenomenon defined as a gradual change in the accepted norms for the condition of the natural environment. This is due to a lack of experience, memory, or knowledge of its past condition. SBS is also referred to as environmental amnesia. This is what SBS looks like. So in the midst of a dual biodiversity and climate crisis, all our conditions are decreasing. You have them on the left, with the time below. So each new generation adjusts its baseline to the new level, to the new conditions. So in practice, the individual perceives that small loss as an actual loss, but not whatever loss happened before. This is often neglected, and this is what shifting baseline syndrome looks like. So in other terms, what we consider to be a healthy environment now, previous generations might consider degraded, and what we judge to be degraded now, the next generation would consider to be healthy or normal. There are three main causes to SBS. The first one is the extinction of experience. More people in Europe are living in large urban areas, further and further away from nature. There's an extensive urban sprawl as well. There are alternative leisure activities that don't involve people going to nature anymore. And all of that is combined with an unprecedented loss of natural areas and general environmental degradation. So there's a lack of interaction with nature, but there's also a loss of orientation, engagement with nature that we can notice now. The second cause of SBS is the loss of familiarity. There's a strong decrease of natural history knowledge. This is when people are just able to identify local plants or wildlife that is just being lost right now. There's also a loss of old practices and stories about nature, as well as a rapid loss of natural vocabulary. And all of that is aggravated by a lack of intergenerational communication. And finally, the second cause of SBS is a lack of historical scientific data. In fact, the majority of biodiversity monitoring schemes that happened in Europe were initiated late in the 20th century. And this is well after anthropogenic impacts had reached already more than half of their current magnitude. So what we are basing either our conservation efforts on or development plans, for example, it's already biased on a natural state that is already damaged. So as you can imagine, SBS has many consequences. And before listing them, I wanted to give you a few examples, and I invite you throughout the conference to do the same. Think about examples of the impacts that SBS may have. I like to call them the new norms. First, well, the first example I have is how we get used to scarcity in Europe. We don't really know what abundance looks like, and the scarce species or the scarce numbers that we see right now, we perceive them as being abundant, but this is already a bias. So this is just a picture of what SBS can be represented as, with in the 1800s a lot of biodiversity in terms of numbers and in terms of diversity. Whereas right now, our seas are almost empty, but we can't really tell the difference. So we just forget that there was once more, much more. Another example of a consequence of SBS is how we have the tendency of picturing nature or wanting nature to be tidy and to be tamed. So with tidy wetlands, drained rivers, and wildlife that you can pet, especially predators. So we have this shift of mind on what nature looks like or should look like. Another example is the strong increase, especially in Europe, of invasive species that can be perceived as, by some people that don't know any better, as being normal. So you have a surge of Japanese knotweed in this example, or cicadea, that is just crawling, and because people are not familiar with nature and what nature should look like, they just assume it's normal. I mentioned it briefly before, but we also have a strong decrease of the knowledge of the vocabulary on nature, and this is a book that was that came out a few years ago as an answer to a children's book in English, children's dictionary, apologies, that removed a lot of words relating to nature from its pages because they were just not used anymore. So words such as kingfisher or wren or acorn or bluebell, they were just removed from these pages, and they were replaced by other words that I can let you imagine. So we just get used to that as well, of not being able to use these words. And finally, the new norm is how quickly we get used to species that are disappearing. I put this photo of a slender-billed curlew that made the news for a few days last year when it officially became globally extinct. And yeah, it made the news for a little while and it was quickly forgotten. But this is quite dramatic and this is just forgotten about really quickly. But just to remind you here that the slender-billed curlew is the first known global extinction from mainland Europe, North Africa and West Asia. And this is quite dramatic. So as I said, we can categorize these consequences of SBS. And I have made a list, a non-exhaustive list, but here we go. So the first one is a gradual habituation to degradation and loss. We just get used to it and we stop noticing it. The second is the altered expectations for the state of nature. This is how we expect nature to be tidy, to be useful, to be tamed. And the third one, and that applies particularly to us professionals working in nature conservation or nature tourism in the nature sector, is called conservation complacency. And this is when professionals become complacent about the state of the natural world because we don't know any better because of the causes of SBS. We may implement further complex and strenuous conservation efforts, but this would be to preserve fewer habitats and species. So we just become complacent with the state of what we can actually see or what we saw at the beginning of our career, for example. And we try to get back to that, but this is not the first baseline, so we are already biased in our efforts. It also creates an increased knowledge gap between conservationists, stakeholders, and the general public. So SBS is an aggravating factor to the environmental deterioration and decline of species, but it's also one of the major obstacles to nature protection and climate justice. So now that I set the mood, what are our options? How can we either reverse the shift or how can we help? What can we do? So our diagram, my diagram of shifting baseline, so there are two ways really to do it. You can either reverse the trend and increase, get the conditions of the natural world better, or you can actually tell people about this gap so they are aware of it. And that is raising awareness. But as a definition of SBS, it's a gradual change of the accepted norms for the state of nature, but this is due to the extinction of experience, is due to loss of familiarity, and is due to a lack of historical scientific data. So this is what we have to work on. But in general, what we need to do really is reconnecting with nature. And this can be done via three ways. The first one is to combat the loss of familiarity, and this is to reconnect with nature via memory. Remember where you're coming from. Don't be afraid to use storytelling or photography or soundscapes or art to create and share stories about the natural world. This will in turn stimulate positive emotions and attitudes and behaviors towards the environment. Retrieving generational knowledge is also absolutely fundamental in reconnecting with nature. Interact, talk, and learn from previous generations, and later will be too late. We have to do it now. Otherwise, all of this knowledge will be just lost forever. And I would also like to encourage you to just don't be afraid to wander and enchant and awe at nature's beauty, to activate your memory and your positive emotions. The second way to reconnect with nature is via knowledge. and this is to fight the lack of historical scientific data. I started doing it myself. Always question what you're observing now. Is this normal? Has this always been like that? What was it before? We need to be able to build stronger legislation. We need to be able to carry out extensive scientific research, absolutely. But we also need to be able to learn from past anecdotes. That used to be the norm. And in general, we have to get rid of this notion that the past is a provider of anecdotes and the present is a provider of knowledge. So don't neglect past history books or old maps or naturalist journals just because they are not compatible with the present or because it doesn't meet our data collection standards. There's valuable knowledge to be retrieved from all of this. And finally, teach children, share with adults, push for more nature in the collective mindset, push for more environmental education. And finally, we can reconnect with nature via experience. And this is to fight, obviously, the extension of experience. Get out there and visit places that inspire you, visit places that are different if you can, just to open your mind on what can be done or how it's being done. We have to make abundance the new baseline. So rewilding can be a tool. There's a rewilding principle that goes protect the best and rewild the rest. I really like it. Rewilding is not possible everywhere, but it is possible in certain places, and it really should be considered. Because rewilding, it is to let nature take the driving seat. So it doesn't have a baseline, it doesn't have a biased baseline. Nature can act as it wants. And just a quick note on the fact that try not to get accustomed to small losses everywhere, every day. It can be daunting, but we need to witness these losses. We need to talk about them, and then we'll be able to prevent them. So no loss is a small loss, but no gain is a small gain, and particularly in this day and age. And this is how we fight SBS, by being aware of it. Now, in lieu of a conclusion, instead of repeating myself, I wanted to share with you 2 quotes that I hope will inspire you as much as they inspire me every day. The first one is a quote by Tamim al-Barghouti, who's a Palestinian poet and writer. And he wrote that whenever you face injustice or roughness, remember to defend yourself by finding beauty. Document it, prove it, and defend it, because all beauty is resistance. And the second one is by Rachel Carson, the famous American author and scientist who wrote Silent Spring. And in her Sense of Wonder, that was published in 1965, she says that a child's world is fresh and new and beautiful, full of wonder and excitement. It is our misfortune that for most of us, that clear-eyed vision, that true instinct towards beautiful and awe-inspiring is dimmed and even lost before we reach adulthood. If I had influence with the good fairy who is supposed to preside over the christening of all children, I should ask that her gift to each child in the world be a sense of wonder so indestructible that it will last throughout life, as an unfailing antidote against the boredom and disenchantment of later years, the alienation from the sources of our strength. Thank you very much for listening to me. I hope I inspired you. I'm so sorry not to be there with you. You have no idea. And I put in my contact details. Please do reach out, and I'd be delighted to talk with you. And I wish you all an excellent EUROPARC conference. Bye.
We say thank you to Margot Periel and we wish her a great recovery. And as we move forward, our next speaker is Patrick McConaughey. He will take us through a multi-generational approach to nature restoration. Patrick comes from Donegal, Ireland, where he works as conservation ranger in Glenveigh National Park. Patrick has also been a part of you're already here. EUROPARC Youth Council and has a strong background in environment education within the National Parks and Wildlife Service. So please welcome an Irishman in Birštonas, Patrick McConaughey.
Thank you.
One more thing, if you have any questions, you can type your questions before scanning this QR code. You will join the Slido platform, and then you can type your any question for Patrick.
Leave them for the bar later.
Yeah, of course. Topic-related, non-topic-related questions. Any question for Patrick. And of course, if you have any questions right here in the audience, we have some microphones in the audience. So if needed, you raise your hand. We come, hand over the microphone and listen to the question, and Patrick will answer. So Patrick McConaughey and his presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, so afternoon everybody, and afternoon EUROPARC. It's great to be here. Before I start, I really just want to thank Esther, Neil and Jessica for all the support in the lead up to today, and all the team behind the scenes pulling all this conference together. It's absolutely incredible. I'm from Glenveigh National Park in the northwest of Ireland, the little red dot. We're very much out on the western seaboard, and the National Park and Donegal is influenced by the weather systems that roll off the Atlantic on a very occasional basis. Just like last weekend, we had a red weather warning, huge storm. And the National Park, as you can see, it's just located right in the centre of County Donegal. So we're in the middle of the Derry-Veigh Mountains. So in Irish, our native language, they are the Sliabhse na Dúrach Bheatha, the mountains of the oak and birch. And the main glen of Glenveigh is known as Glen Bheatha, Glen of the Birches. So our main conservation priority is the restoration of native woodlands. As well as that, we have a huge visitor centre that welcomes around 220,000 visitors per year. And then we have a gardens, approximately 9 hectares in size, that is full of exotic plants. Some landscape legacy issues that I'll speak to you a little later on. But the brand of Glenveigh in particular is really a highland estate in Ireland. And when you look, we'll move into it in a second, but what type of restoration actions can lead us to a new normal, to shape nature with and for future generations? That's the approach we're taking, is a multi-generational approach to nature restoration, to bring all generations, especially the young people, through this journey that we're going to embark on right up until 2120. So, to do that, and to inform you guys today, I want to take you on a visual journey through time, back in time to the previous landowners and the estate owners of Glenveigh National Park. Then I'll talk a bit about the present management that is ongoing today and project into the management that we're hoping that will continue on right into future generations. So Glenveigh was purchased by John George Adair, a wealthy land speculator, in 1857. He recklessly evicted the 244 tenants right around the perimeter of what we know as Glenveigh Valley in April 1861, and he was nicknamed Black Jack Adair. And you know that legacy and history still exists today, with some people not in favour of that era of time. He then went on to what you can see. He built Glenveigh Castle. Some people call it a castellated mansion, right in the middle of the valley. And it was constructed with locally sourced granite in the middle of the valley also. He unfortunately died in 1885, and his wife, Miss Cornelia Adair, who's pictured centre, went on to develop the estate. She introduced red deer to the estate, as it was back then, and employed local deer stalkers to take guests out onto the Donegal Hills to shoot red deer, all about trophy hunting. She also developed the gardens, as I said, and you can see here, just in later years, how foliage, vegetation, and trees that she introduced started to grow up. And if you notice on the castle, she introduced and constructed a round tower, and that was to entertain her guests. She had a music room at the base of the tower, and the ladies that came to visit got to stay in the upper rooms to look out over the lake as they woke up in the morning. So it was very much a real Highland experience in Donegal. In 1892, with the first game books, so the deer stalking records that we have, she introduced red deer from all across Ireland and the UK. She supplemented the herd that was in the park, and that was for the deer stalking experience. So they would have been fed potatoes to beef them up and stock them up, and that was for guests to experience a real, true experience of deer stalking in the Donegal Hills. And just note on the top the title, Glenveigh Deer Forest. She constructed one of the largest fences known at the time across Europe at approximately 45 kilometers in length. So it was a really, really iconic experience when people came into Glenveigh. And then moving right through the years to 1975, when the national park came to be. So the last and the third owner of Glenveigh, Mr. Henry McElhinney, donated the lands of Glenveigh National Park back to the state to create a national park. So this year, we're 50 years as a national park. And that's a more modern photo that you can see today of Glenveigh. But with inheriting the national park in the estate, we have landscape legacy issues that we now work on in nature conservation. So we have a whole network of drains that were scoured in and scourged into deep peat or peatland habitat, blanket bog. So that's one of the issues that we're working with. The second is the infestation of rhododendron ponticum that's spread from the gardens right out through the mountains and our woodland habitat. And the third issue is the overgrazing of a really, really high density of red deer. And without the presence of a predator, they've just overpopulated the national park. So that's the three main issues that we have in conservation in Glenveigh. And that is why we have our 100-year woodland management strategy. So it's got real clear phases. There's 3 phases. The first is from now 2020 right through to 2030 with clear actions that we have to undertake, and it will really lead to significant change throughout the national park. So our first phase is all about a results-based deer cull. This is systematic and it's professional. We've adopted it from Scotland in the UK. And you can see here in the map, the zones for deer management has all been overlaid into different parts of the park. So it's a zero-tolerance approach. And we have our priority area, which is the main valley of the national park. We're culling all year round, and it's all ages, all sexes, and as I said, it's a zero-tolerance approach. You can see, I suppose, just the thing that we're into, and the business that we're into, is we're not counting deer anymore. When you was a functioning estate, we would have been counting deer. Now it's all about counting trees, and especially naturally regenerating trees because of the lack of overgrazing in the park. And this is just, I suppose, a little graph to show you the effort that is ongoing. So we leave the carcasses on the hill for nutrient recycling. So the nutrients that were stripped off the landscape for decades, I guess, they're now all being circulated right back into the ecosystem as we continue with our deer effort cull. If you have a quick look at the photo, it's like, can you point out the deer? Can you find the deer? They're choked in through the rhododendron, so it's like the two problems just sit side by side. So we really believe that overgrazing of the red deer on the native trees and shrubbery leads to the expansion of invasive species. So when they strip the vegetation right down, they're leaving a fertile soil bank there for the seed of the invasives to get going. And then, as you can see, without management, this is what can happen. So this is where the park was 5 years ago when we embarked on the project, where you had overgrazing and there's the hill just full of rhododendron ponticum. I just wanted to include these 2 photos. I recreated this photo in August 2025, and this is in August or September 1990. So in the 20 years, we're in a good position starting off in the project. As you can see, behind the deer stalker's hut in the main valley, you can see it's full and choked with rhododendron, and you can also see deer there just up behind the Land Rover. Now, in 2025, we're clear of rhododendron and regenerating trees. So that's I suppose the real good work that's gone on in the last 20 to 25 years in the park. Next photo. Cast your eye away from the red van, volunteers, work gone wrong. But if you have a look just beyond that, you can see a real pink flower. That's rhododendron, wall-to-wall rhododendron on the main path out through the glen of our national park. And then I took this photo in August 25, where you can see right out through the valley, and you have native species like holly, birch, and rowan naturally regenerating without a monoculture of rhododendron there. And this is what I want to get into, multi-generational, how we're bringing young people along with us, being able to go out into these habitats. That's one of our most favoured habitats, Mullingore Woods, right out along the valley in the park, but also working with young people indoors and meeting them where they're at. So we have a dedicated education team, and there's 3 members on the team at the moment, and this is Alarna. So Alarna's an artist, and she fully believes in using the creative arts to bring children along on messaging and to regain a connection with nature. Just like Margot was saying there in her presentation about shifting baseline syndrome, it's all about rebuilding connections with nature. And on our latest project that we've embarked on that's just about to launch now, young people right around the national park got involved, and some of the messages within the conservation problem that we have, they're not always they're not always easy to discuss. Some of them are very hard, but they do always lead to very healthy discussion. So I'm just going to show you a quick 30 seconds on how the children have interpreted deer management. Let's see if this will work.
Deer. There are deer everywhere, and the deer are hungry. And what do hungry deer want? Seedlings, saplings, new trees. And what they don't eat, they trample. So the deer need managed too. That's a nice way of saying, uh-huh.
As a national park, we have to get the balance right. We need to keep the number of deer just right to allow the trees to survive. If we don't, then the woodlands will just continue to disappear.
Yeah, so we genuinely, in all of the work that we're doing in terms of communications, the narrative, the core messages, we really believe that the young people interpret it in a way that maybe us adults, and we can't see it through their lens. So they've been really a breath of fresh air to work with, because they bring a perspective that we just don't have. Moving then from the deer to the data. So as I said, we're not in the business of counting deer. We're thinking about all the data that comes with when you control a grazer on the landscape. We have 62 woodland plots right throughout the national park. So right up at the top, you can see the main valley, but then we have some fragmented pockets of land ownership right throughout the perimeter of the national park too. And those plots are to then count seedlings, baby trees, saplings, like the teenagers, and then poles, getting up to the more mature trees. So we're counting trees instead of counting deer, and then we have ecological transect walks. You see the green squiggles on the map, and they are to monitor vegetation change also in the more upland sections of the national park. Big thing for ourselves in the national park too is partnering with colleges, PhD partnerships, and we just have started one PhD that's going to look at the alternative deer management in Glenveigh National Park and look at the different processes that come with that. So again, I'm going to show you one little video that the children see in terms of all the data and the science behind the park.
Different ages. A healthy woodland needs trees of different ages. Seedlings, saplings, and poles. Babies, teenagers, and grown-ups to us. Over time, the young trees replace the older ones. When the balance is just right, the woodlands can do this all by themselves.
With a little help. This balance needs help from humans too, sometimes, when things aren't going so well. So they can grow, spread, and thrive for the future.
So, there's a crack team of Glenveigh champions on the case.
All right. So, moving into phase 2 of the project, we're thinking when we get to 2030, we want to have a lack of invasive species. We don't want to be seeing them on the landscape. This is what we want to be seeing in abundance. So this is a rowan, or rowan is often said also. We want to see this happening in abundance throughout the park. We want to see it happening outside enclosures. So that for a long time, there's been deer exclosures to allow trees to naturally generate. But for landscape scale restoration, we don't want to be putting fences up throughout the national park. And moving then on, we want to see the succession of the woodlands up in further to the open hill. So that's moving from 2030 to 2050 on a very brief note. Then we go to phase 3, moving into 2050 to 2120. That's a crazy thought. But that's where we're moving towards. That's a big goal that we have and the big ambition that we have behind our woodland management strategy. So you can see on the note that I have in this slide, we want natural processes to be occurring without any real human intervention. So you have trees falling with old age, you then have the young seedlings coming back up, moving into saplings, moving into poles, where you have everything in balance and equilibrium. As well as that, I've used this word a lot, and you'll be in your head now, the grazers and the invasive species. We want them absent as much as possible from the landscape. Finally, this was last week. I was collecting birch seeds and acorns, the trees of the future. And in the last few weeks, I got this package from my HR within my job and told me that my projected retirement year is 2062. Funny thoughts. But I was thinking about it a lot, and while we're out and we're counting trees and collecting seeds and culling deer and getting rid of invasive species, and I was thinking to myself that with the clear plan that we have now, it's very, very easy to streamline our work. We have clear priorities, we have clear actions, and with that plan, we will be able to restore nature within the national park and to create a real resilient landscape for future generations. Gromaigat, thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, Patrick. Do we have any questions from the audience in person? No, but we have some. We have. Okay. Can we pass the microphone to this gentleman?
Hi, Elliot Lorman from Yorkshire Dales National Park.
Yes.
In England. Just a question. What do the neighbouring landowners think of your approach to land management, and have they come along with you, or is there work to do on that?
Yeah, actually in the last 2 weeks we have an approach from a landowner who's had huge issues with deer. He's a farmer, so he has had a lot of issues with the amount of deer coming into his land, breaking fences, overgrazing as well. So he's agreeing he wants to go into licenses to allow us to control deer in his land as well. We do have some sheep grazing in the national park as well. But we're working with them to restore fences that fell into disrepair, and they're behind that as well. So yeah, no, we've had a really good buy-in from the community, but also landowners and farmers as well. Yep.
Any more questions? Okay, can we pass the microphone here? Here. Please raise your hand. Okay, we see you.
Patrick?
Yes.
This side, actually.
Here.
Sorry, I'm blinded by the lights.
I'm a fellow countryman.
Yes.
You're using the phrase cull. As you know, there's a national plan to take out deer.
Yeah.
in Ireland at the present time, and they won't use the word cull because they're afraid of the public reaction to it.
Yeah.
Can you give me a little bit of your experience in using the word, and have you got a reaction to it in Donegal?
Yeah, for me, I come from a sheep farming background as well at home. And yeah, using the word cull, everybody goes, oh, poor Bambi. Often. Poor Bambi, yeah. But with farmers, there's a growing appetite for a bigger management plan for deer. So I suppose when it comes to the language around the control of the mammal and the deer, it's having those open discussions is the best way forward. And I myself, so far, haven't received any kind of tension towards using the word cull.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Patrick, we have actually many questions.
Oh, wow.
But we are very strict in time. So I'll give you this question. What do you think about what do you think about environmental history? It could be a subject to be taught in schools alongside traditional history, so could be useful against SBS.
Yes. And me and Margot have had so many discussions on this. And I'm really sorry Margot can't be here today as well, but we have had really, really good discussions around teaching. If we can't move into the future without teaching about the past, land management, and all of the mistakes that we've made. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we need to remember when we are embarking on conservation projects, is remember and teaching and learning all about the landscape legacy and history as well. Yeah.
Patrick, let's make a deal. You go to slido.com and answer the questions by sitting here, okay?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Patrick McConnelly.
Thanks.
Thank you. And now it's time for our final inspirational talk, or in other words, to finish this session, we invite our Finnish guest. Please welcome Tiina Hakkarainen from Finland, where she works as manager of corporate relations at Metsähallitus Parks and Wildlife Finland. Tiina holds a master's degree in forestry and has over 15 years of experience promoting outdoor lifestyles and engagement with nature. Her work combines environmental expertise with communication, leadership, and community involvement. And today she will take us to Finland somehow to celebrate Finnish Nature Day, the world's first official flag day for nature. Tiina, please.
Thank you. And today, my name is Tiina Hakkarainen, but I feel like Tina Turner because I have this headset microphone. This is amazing. I can even dance in here. So I have a question for you. Is there any people present who like to party? You can only raise your hand if you are like that. Excellent. Then I'm speaking to right kind of people. And is there anyone in the house who like to arrange parties? Yeah? Excellent, even better. So we can continue. So I talk you a little bit about Finnish Nature Day. And this is one, like when you care for something, you arrange a party. If you care for your mother, you arrange a party for her. And when you care for nature, you arrange a party for nature. And we certainly have done it in Finland. And we celebrate it annually. It's like last Saturday of August, and it's a joyful party. You can be creative, you can arrange your own kind of party, you can go to the forest with your friends or with your family and do whatever you like to do in the nature and respect the nature and have fun in there. And we want people to share their experiences in social media, and at the moment we don't even have to do it so much by ourselves because people share the photographs, and we have this hashtag Suomen luonnonpäivä. We have huge amount of pictures in Instagram and Facebook on that hashtag. So it has been like the Finnish Nature Day kind of lives her own life at the moment. We don't have so many people working in Parks and Wildlife Finland, so we can't arrange all of the parties, but we have a lot of parties on that day in Finland. And it's also Flag Day, so our Ministry of Environment is raising a flag for Finnish Nature Day, and there's always some kind of important person for doing that, and we are very proud of our nature. And how do people celebrate? You can do anything, basically. You can go walking in the forest, you can go picking up berries, you can bake blueberry pie, you can even hug trees if you like it. It makes you calm. And you can go fishing, or you can have dinner under the open sky, enjoy the stars and northern lights, which we have in Finland. You can imagine, like beautiful, beautiful northern nature. And this very strong social media community is important to us. And I put it in here, but I believe you know it, that in Finland we are the happiest nation in the world. And nature is one of the things why we are so happy. Because if you go to even outside of your apartment in Helsinki, there's always trees and sea and nature. It's very close because there ain't so many people in Finland, but we have a lot of forests and 1,000 lakes, and nature is very close to us. And many of Finnish people, we also own a forest. Even though I'm not a very rich person, I have little bit forest of my own. Even Matti has a forest. So many Finnish people own a forest, even Matti. And we have different. Nature is very big part of every person's identity in Finland. Somehow we are connected to nature, and there ain't only one way to be connected to the nature, but we have some kind of relationship with the nature. And we have had this survey that nearly 90% of Finnish people consider that nature is important to them. So it's 90%, almost all. Wonderful. And we had this Flag Day since 2017 for nature, so it's quite big thing. We have flag days for like important men, and some women also nowadays in Finland too have a flag day, but nature has one too, so it's really nice. And nature is present in the art. We have famous painters who have been painting paintings from the Koli National Park on the hilltops, Eero Järnefelt. Then we have a lot of authors who have been writing about nature, and we have made books about nature and movies about nature. So it's very, very much present in our arts in Finland. And of course, we get health benefits when we go to the nature. We walk a lot in the nature, we get exercise, then we feel better when we go to the nature, we get more relaxed, and when we are stressed, our blood pressure is going down when we go to the nature, and it's like stressful to live in a very northern country as a cold climate, so it's good to have something relaxing to go to the nature. So yeah, it's very important to us, as you can see. And then it's like, I really can't cook, but we have this blueberry pie, which you can make if you can make it in a Finnish Nature Day, but I buy my blueberry pie from the supermarket or from the cafeteria, or my mom makes it or something, but it's like our thing that we make this blueberry pie, and we can even share recipes in the internet if you are like kitchen kind of person, and then you can share the pictures and the recipes and have fun like the beautiful women over there who are in one of our national parks having blueberry pie. So it's really nice, and it's like Arctic superfood with sugar and some fat also, but very good for you. Arctic superfood, blueberry pie. And you can have it with your best friend in the nature, so it's wonderful. You can take someone else also, but dog is always a good company to go to the nature. And in Finland we have a lot of dogs, so it's nice. And You can even watch when your dogs eat the blueberry pie, and it's always nice when you can make someone else also happy. And we have a lot of partners. As I said, it's not like Parks and Wildlife Finland, only few people arrange a lot of parties, but this Finnish Nature Day is living her own life at the moment, and we have had a lot of good musicians singing in the national parks. We had 2017 we had music performances in all of the national parks in Finland, and we have 41 national parks, and we had even few concerts in some of the national parks, so a lot of musicians came to the national parks to have their performances there. And then we had this wonderful Latvian concept, Nature Concert Hall. We had it in 2021. We had Bombus Hypronum on Nature Day, and then we have birthdays of the national parks, and we have volunteering events and guided nature walks and forest yoga, and we have this forest hotels in the national parks or hiking areas, so people can go there even without they don't have any experience to how to set up a tent and sleep there. So it's quite nice. You can have the experience of spending night in nature, even though you are not so much hiking person or outdoor person. You can become one. So it's nice. And these are a few pictures from the Nature Concert Hall. Quite nice event. This one too. A lot of people having fun. And now we have this live project, which has this vision that we would have more of these parties, even though it's a big thing already. So we want to engage state leaders and public to be more involved, and then Parks and Wildlife Finland, we get all of our funding from the government, so we need to have the politicians by our side. So we make events for decision makers, and we even want to promote the idea for you guys. So I noticed that there are some people who like parties, like going, and even arranging one. So maybe this could be a good idea. And what you can do if you want to have a party in the nature. So you can copy of some of our good ideas. You can have outdoor events and public celebrations, even a flag day for nature, maybe. And I recommend these social media campaigns, so you don't have to do so much by yourself if the other people also join. So it's a good idea. And what I can say, let's celebrate. So you can join to Finnish Nature Day, come to Finland, enjoy our parties, or arrange your own. And nature belongs to everyone, so it's a nice way to connect. What do you think? Do you want to do it?
Tina Hakkarainen from Finland. Thank you so much. We have some little presents for you to remember
wonderful.
us.
Maybe party invitation.
Maybe the book.
Thank you.
Very good book.
Thank you.
And some flowers.
Thank you.
Always fresh.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? Yeah, we have one question.
Thank you very much, Tina. My name is Jens Brüggemann from Germany. And I think what you are proposing is this engagement of the communities, of the people with nature. I really like that. And I think EUROPARC already has one day, the European Day of Parks. And I would just like to remember that, and maybe we can all combine this, because the one from the EUROPARC Council who proposed this, Antonio Lopez Lillo, is turning 90 this very day. So I think that's a great idea to join the forces and have more parties throughout Europe.
Thank you. I agree.
Any more questions?